So we are reading Grimm Tales by Philip Pullman. It is a retelling of a bunch of Grimm fairy tales, and Pullman does a really good job of embracing the strangeness of everything Grimm. So that's what we're going to do. Today's story is called The Girl with No Hands, which already kind of implies it's going to be a bit strange. Um, oh no, I'm sorry, you feel gross. Not that he can hear me if it's just got it on the thing. Um, yeah, that sounds like it's already going to be a bit of a weird story, so let's dive right in. The Girl with No Hands. There was once a miller who sank little by little into poverty until until all he had left was his mill and a fine apple tree standing behind it. Why? Jeez, sorry, I got distracted. Let's start this again. Clearly, my brain's not working very well today. The Girl with No Hands. There was once a miller who sank little by little into poverty until all he had left was his mill and a fine apple tree standing behind it. One day he just set off into the forest to gather some wood, when an old man he'd never seen before appeared in front of him. "Why are you wearing yourself out chopping wood?" said the old man. "Just promise to give me whatever's standing behind your mill, and I'll make you rich." "What's behind the mill?" thought the miller. "It can only be the apple tree." "All right," he said, "I'll do it." The old man wrote out a contract, and the miller signed it. The old man took it with a strange kind of laugh. These deals never go well for anybody. "I'll come back for it," he said, "in 3 years. Don't you forget now." The miller hurried home, and his wife came out to meet him. "Oh, husband," she said, "you'll never guess what's happened. Boxes and chests of treasure all over the house, all at once, full to the brim. Gold coins, all sorts of money and jewels and so forth. Where can it have come from? Is the good Lord blessing us at last?" "He's kept his side of the bargain, then," said the miller, and he told his wife about the old man in the forest. "All I had to do was sign over whatever is standing behind the mill. This treasure's worth an apple tree, isn't it?" "Oh, husband, you don't know what you've done. That must have been the devil. He didn't mean the apple tree. He meant our daughter. She was out there sweeping the path." The miller's daughter, who was a lovely girl, lived the next 3 years worshipping God piously, as you do before the devil shows up to claim you as his bride. When the time was up for the evil one to come and get her, she washed herself from top to toe, put on her white dress, and drew a chalk circle around herself on the floor. The devil turned up first thing in the morning, and found that he couldn't get near her. He said to the miller, "What did you let her wash herself for, you old fool? Don't let her have any water, not a drop, or else I won't be able to touch her." The miller was terrified. He did as the devil told him, and he didn't let his daughter have a drop of water, no matter how thirsty she was. Next morning the devil came back. "Look, her hands are clean. Why did you let her wash her hands?" It turned out that she'd wept all night, and her tears had washed her hands clean. The devil was furious because he still couldn't touch her. "Right," he said, "now you'll have to chop her hands off." The miller was horrified. "I can't do that," he cried. "My own child. I can't do that to her." "Well, if you don't," said the devil, "I'll just have to take you instead." That was too much for the miller, because he's a shitty parent. Any actual decent parent would be like, "Sure thing." Anyway, that was too much for the miller. He went to the girl and said, "My dear daughter, I've got to chop your hands off, or the devil will have me, and I'm so afraid. Forgive me, my child. Help me with this, and forgive me." And the girl does not say, "You fucking dickhead. What the hell? You got us into this in the first place." The girl said, "Father dear, I'm your daughter. You can do whatever you like to me." And she stretched out her hands and let her father chop them off. Oh my God! The devil came back once more, but the poor girl had wept again, and covered her stumps with tears, so that they were perfectly clean. He had to give up then, because he'd tried 3 times, and that was the limit. The miller said, "My dear, it's all because of you that we're as rich as we are. You won't want for a thing. I'll make sure you live in luxury all your life long." But she said, "I can't live here any more." This is the first time she's shown any backbone. I like it. "I'm going to go away. The kindness of strangers will provide everything I need." She asked them to tie her maimed arms to her back, and off she went. She walked all day, and she didn't stop till it was dark. The moon was shining, and by its light she saw across a river into a royal garden where the trees were covered with beautiful fruit. She longed for something to eat, but she couldn't get there because of the water. She hadn't had a bite to eat all day, and she was suffering badly from hunger. She thought, oh, if only I were in the garden, I could eat the fruit straight off the tree. If I can't do that, I'll perish. She knelt down and prayed, and straight away an angel appeared. Cool. He went to the river and closed a sluice gate, and the stream dried up, so that she could walk across. She went into the garden with the angel following. She saw a tree covered in beautiful ripe pears, which had all been numbered so that none could be stolen, but she couldn't help that. She stepped up to the tree and ate from it, just one pear, enough to satisfy her hunger, but no more. After she'd eaten it, she went to lie down in the bushes. The gardener was watching, but he saw the angel with her and thought the girl was a spirit too. He didn't dare make a noise. Next morning the king came and looked around. He saw at once that one of the pears had been eaten, and summoned the gardener. Oh, your majesty, last night a spirit came and walked across the stream and ate the pear right off the tree. It had no hands, your majesty. How did it walk across the stream? An angel came down and closed the sluice gate for it, and let the stream dry up. I was afraid, your majesty, so I didn't call out and stop it. After the spirit had eaten the pear, it went away somewhere. That doesn't sound very likely, said the king. This king is a pragmatist. I'd better keep watch with you tonight, in case it happens again. Next night the king came quietly to the garden, accompanied by a priest who was going to talk to the spirit if it appeared again. They sat down nearby and waited. And sure enough, at midnight, the girl came out from hiding, stepped up to the tree, and ate a pear just with her mouth. Next to her an angel dressed in white was standing guard. The priest went up to them and said, Where do you come from, my child? From God or from the world? Are you a spirit or a human being? I'm not a spirit, she said. I'm a poor woman who's been forsaken by everyone except God. Although, to be fair, she did leave of her own volition. I mean, I understand why she left, because if your father chops your hands off, you probably shouldn't stay in your house. But still, anyway. The king heard what she said and replied, Even if the whole world has forsaken you, I shall not. He took her back to his castle. She was so beautiful and good that he fell in love with her and took her as his wife, and had silver hands made for her, and they lived in happiness. After a year the king had to go to war. He left his young queen in the care of his mother. If she has a baby, he said, look after mother and child well, and write and tell me the news at once. A little later she gave birth to a beautiful son. The king's mother wrote as he told her, telling him the joyful news. But on his way to the king the messenger stopped at a brook to rest. All this time the devil had been watching over the girl, determined to destroy her happiness, and now he took the letter away and substituted one that said the queen had given birth to a monster. When the king read this he was horrified and saddened, but he wrote back to say they should take good care of her till he came back. Once again the messenger lay down to sleep, and once again the devil came and put a letter of his own in place of the one the messenger was carrying. This one said that they should kill the queen and her child. The queen mother was shocked and frightened when she read this letter. She wrote to her son again, but got the same answer because the devil was watching and kept switching the letters around. The last letter even said that they should keep the queen's eyes and tongue as proof. When the old queen read this, she wept bitterly at the shedding of such innocent blood, but then she had an idea, and had a doe slaughtered, and cut out its eyes and its tongue, and kept them safe. My dear, she said to the queen, you can't stay here. I don't know why the king has sent this terrible command, but here it is in his writing, and the only thing for you to do is to go away with the child out into the wide world and never come back. The queen mother tied the baby onto his mother's back, and the poor woman went away once more, weeping. She walked and walked till she came to a deep, dark forest, and there she knelt down to pray. And an angel appeared to her, just as he had before. Where was this frickin' angel when the king's letter was being tampered with? That's what I want to know. And an angel appeared to her just as he had before, and this time he led her to a little house. A sign above the door said, Here anyone is welcome, and all live free. Out of the house came a maiden as snow white as the angel, and said, Your Majesty, come inside. She untied the little baby from her back, and held him to the queen's breast so she could suckle him, and then showed them a beautifully made bed. How do you know that I'm a queen? I'm an angel sent by heaven to take care of you. You needn't worry about a thing." And for 7 years she lived in the little house, and she and her son were looked after very well. And during that time, through the grace of heaven, and because of her own piety, her hands grew back. I don't even know what to say about that one. That's bizarre. Finally, the king came home from the war, and the first thing he wanted to do was to greet his dear wife and their child. His old mother began to weep. "You wicked man! How can you say that when you wanted them killed?" The king was astonished, but she showed him the letters the devil had forged. "And I did what you told me to," she said. "Here's the proof, her eyes and her tongue." The king began to weep even more bitterly than his mother. Finally the old woman had mercy on him and said, "Something wicked has been happening here. But there's no need to weep, because your wife is still alive. These are the eyes and tongue of a doe. I tied the baby on his mother's back, and told her to go out into the world and promise never to come back here, because you were so angry with her." "You're right," said the king. "This is the work of the devil. But I'll go out and look for her, and I'll neither eat nor drink nor sleep in a bed till I've found my dear wife and my child." That's a stupid promise to make. The king travelled all over the world for nearly 7 years, apparently not eating or drinking anything, searching in every cave and hovel, every town and village, and found no sign of her, so he began to think that perhaps she had perished. As he had vowed, he ate and drank nothing all that time, but the favour of heaven kept him alive. Finally he came to a great forest, where he found a little house with a sign over the door saying, "Here anyone is welcome, and all live free." The snow-white angel came out and took him by the hand. "Welcome, your majesty. Where have you come from?" "I have been travelling about the world for nearly 7 years," he said. "I've been looking for my wife and my child, but I can't find them anywhere." The angel offered him some food and drink, but he refused, saying that all he wanted was to rest a little. He lay down and covered his face with a handkerchief. The angel went into the next room, where the queen was sitting with her son, whom she had come to call Sorrowful. Poor fucking kid. The angel said, "Go into the parlour and take your son. Your husband has come looking for you." She hurried to where he was lying, and the handkerchief fell from his face. "Pick up the cloth, Sorrowful," she said, "and put it back over your father's face." The little boy picked it up and put it back over the king's face. The king heard this in his sleep, and deliberately let the cloth fall once more. The little boy... Wait, sorry. Then the child grew impatient and said, "But, mamma, how can I cover my father's face? You've told me I had no father in this world, only a Father in heaven, the one I pray to when I say, 'Our Father which art in heaven.' How can this wild man be my father?" Hearing this, the king sat up and asked the woman who she was. "I am your wife," she said, "and this is your son, Sorrowful." But he looked at her hands and saw that they were real living hands. "My wife had silver hands," he said. She replied, "In his mercy the dear Lord caused my hands to grow back." The angel brought the silver hands from the other room, and that convinced him. This was his beloved wife and his child. There was no doubt about it. And he kissed them and embraced them and said joyfully, "A heavy stone has fallen from my heart." The angel gave them all something to eat, and they went back home to his good old mother. When the news was heard throughout the kingdom, everyone was joyful. The king and queen celebrated their wedding once again, and they lived happily ever after. Wow. I think that one got grimmed the fuck to hell, to be honest, because it's way religious, and I don't think it used to be. Or at least I don't think that the version that was floating around before the Grimm brothers got hold of it was probably not that religious. But still. Kudos to the Queen Mom for being a bad